Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, we got some breaking news here from Kalshi on Twitter. They said just in, SpaceX valuation nearly equals the combined value of every major US IPO since 2000. Now, I know what you're thinking. Kalshi likes to make some big claims. Sometimes it cannot be supported, and you would be right. However, it is almost as bad, just maybe not quite as bad. So the truest statement should be that SpaceX IPO valuation is around the same size as the combined inflation-adjusted IPO valuations of the 29 biggest U.S. IPOs since the year 2000. Right, and so this again claim here is maybe not necessarily perfectly accurate, but it's pretty goddamn accurate, and this is not good. Ladies and gentlemen, this means that Elon Musk is now officially the world's first ever trillionaire on paper. Now, do they have $1 trillion in liquidity? The answer is obviously no, but they are a trillionaire. And when I see something like that, when I think of some person having control, access to something that's about $1 trillion. And it might take them a while to offload all of that, right? And they might not get the full trillion. But when I see something like that, my first thought is we got people in this country. We got kids who literally have fucking lunch debt, right? We have people who are dying from lack of healthcare access. We got roads with potholes in it. It's like, you know what? Maybe you need to be worth like $400 billion and not $1 trillion. I'm sorry. I'm just going to go out there and say it that I don't think that maybe he should be worth over $1 trillion. I find this absolutely insane, let alone the fact that all this hype has led to the point where this company is now, again, bigger than the 29 biggest U.S. IPOs since the year 2000, right? When you adjust for inflation, like that valuation is crazy, dude. That valuation is crazy. And I know a lot of people like to hate on IPOs. Right now, and I'm not gonna lie. There is some truth to that in the sense that it wasn't just people who were early investors in terms of private equity. Oftentimes, a lot of these deals are basically limited to the fact or limited to people whose net worths are a lot higher or people who make a certain salary, which is downright corrupt. It's un-American. It's basically saying, look, right, you can't do what you want with your own money, and we're not going to accept your money because your money's no good here, right? If you're not one of the elite, if you're not one of us, then you can't do nothing, and we're going to keep our little inner circle. It's basically legalized the accredited investor distinction here is basically legalized insider trading. And I'm going to stand by that till the day that I die. But what I will tell you here is that this is wild. This is a wild case that we have. But we're not going to be talking about accredited investors per se. But, when I think of like SpaceX, right, and I think of Tesla, and I think of all these companies here that Elon Musk has, the first thing I'm thinking of is like, are we in a bubble, right? Because, in what universe are all these companies worth what people are saying? And it's like, yes, they got lots of business. It's like, but I think it's more so the name and the hype around these stocks rather than the value that the companies are actually producing. For the people who are their investors. And so, for me, I would try to back away from this here. What I think will probably end up happening here, we'll probably see some large liquidity events where people are going to be trying to cash out as much as they can. These early investors here who already had these shares before this initial IPO, now they can unload that. And I would also say that this stock is probably just going to have a lot of initial hype and then slowly to go down a little bit. Will it go down to zero or anything like that? No, probably not. But will it be as high as this IPO? I don't know. I'd probably say not. But then again, I ain't no financial advisor. And half the time, it's all fugazi. It's fugazi. It's wazi. It's woozy. It's not fucking real, to quote the Wolf of Wall Street. So who knows what could happen here. But either way, I remember I'm I'm old enough to remember back when the first 100 billionaire was around, and now we're in a situation where this guy is worth $1 trillion. Like, that's just insane, dude. So not only is our money worth less, but now we got to deal, with people like this having a whole hell of a lot more than they once did. So the average person's getting screwed. People like this are making out like bandits. I just seen something the other day. It was using government numbers, right? Using government inflation numbers. And again, these are the numbers that, half the time are legally hid and just like, suppressed by people like the Trump administration or Biden administration or whatever administration. If you look at those numbers, right, and you look in the year 2020, you'd say, okay, well, if you made $100,000 in the year 2020 and you wanted the same standard of living in the year 2026, how much money do you have to make? And the answer is I'm going to give you a second to guess. $130,000, and $130,000 is on the low end of that, right? Because those are the government published numbers, and in reality, the actual inflation numbers are a lot higher and worse than what the government publishes, and so probably about $140,000, maybe even as high as $150,000 that you now have to make to have that same standard of living. So in a large part, our money is worth less, and because our money's worth less, maybe the trillion isn't as impressive as a trillion was 10 years ago. But $1 trillion doesn't matter. It's $1 trillion fucking dollars, bro. Like, I think this guy, I think he could struggle through if he was worth a little bit less. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. Now, again, I know it's not all liquid wealth and whatnot, and it's like, fair game here. But when you have a net worth like that, dude, and the fact that you can pay, the tax rates that you do, it kind of terrifies me, bro. Kind of terrifies me a little bit. We could be spending that money on a whole hell of a lot of other things. I know what you're going to say. Well, if we're already misappropriating our funds, then why would you need to tax people more? You have to, properly, allocate that money in the first place. And then, yes, we'd be open to more taxes. And that's true. And I agree with that. But what I am saying here is that, we got to at least start small here. And, link back to before Reagan was in office, for instance, and the tax rates were in the 90%. Now, you could say, were the effective tax rates in the 90%? The answer is no. But the rates were a lot higher than what they are today. So that trickle-down economics effect has not worked. It will never work. Instead, we should be reinvesting in our own country, reinvesting in our infrastructure, doing things like job programs. Everybody loves to glaze FDR, saying he's one of the best presidents of all time. But yet, when we try to embody, FDR's message with people like Mamdani, for instance, then all of a sudden he's some radical, some radical left-wing postmodern neo-Marxist. It's like, bro, come on, man. Like, I don't know what to do here. Throw a little bit of 2017 lingo back into the fold there. But with that said, guys, I just thought it was wild, right? Elon Musk, a trillionaire, and we got SpaceX IPO, bigger than the 29 biggest IPOs since the year 2000. That's something. That's a headline right there. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, hope you did enjoy the video. My name is Dr. Ian Phillips, and we'll talk to you later. Peace.